occasioni per Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco, Del Piero, gol! Allianz, palla di Pogacar in Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 336 of the Turin Giants podcast. I throw my hands up because we just witnessed maybe the most frustrating game this year, a horrific 1-1 draw, or I should say a 1-1 draw against a horrific Lecce side. My name is Zach, and I'm joined by my good friend Frederic and the return of the man himself, Damiano. Hey, man, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you guys doing? It could be better, but
yeah, absolutely.
We're here.
Absolutely. Frederic, is this going to be a therapy session with based, I mean, regardless of us playing well, with how this result ended up shaking out?
I think that these are the types of games that you always need to win. And regardless where your standings are in terms of position in the table, it's unforgiving that you cannot find a way to get, the 3 points home. So I think this is gonna be it's gonna have some therapeutic sprinkles on it, I think. Yeah.
All right, let's not shy away from it. Okay. Juventus dominated this game from an eyeball test perspective and from a statistics perspective. 72% possession, 25 shots, 5 on target, 6 big chances. 5 of them missed, of course. We led pretty much every single category in every single stat that possibly could exist, except goals, where we tied. And against a team of not only of Lecce's standing and stature, but also in their ability, because they were horrible. Not coming away with a win is absolutely tragic. Is this a blip in the radar of our season, Damiano, or is this signs of something deeper, of some deeper sickness?
I'm hoping it's a blip in this current form that we've been having. I mean, things look like they've been turning around. Hopefully it's just a blip, but at the same time, before this, we were not looking too good anyway. I mean, this could just be cracks reappearing. I mean, we should have won this game. It's definitely, this was a should have and must have win, and we did not. We lost 2 points.
Damiano kind of referenced our form, Frederic, maybe not the most convincing in some of our games, but we won 7 of 8 games. We had a week of rest. We demoed the 4-3-3. We looked fantastic for 45 minutes of the 47-minute first half. Is this a blip to you, or is this signs of a deeper sickness?
Before I'll get into that, I want to say a quick shout out and a quick hi to everybody in the chat. Mohammed, Pino, Magic Realism, Archaeology, Christian, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. It means the world to us. You can follow us at Turin Giants Official on YouTube and any other major streaming platforms such as Spotify or Apple Music. Thank you guys for being with us for this live, and I hope you guys subscribe and like, because at times it.
Look at this guy doing the socials, man. I didn't even have to do it today. He jumps in. He takes care of the housekeeping. Look at him.
It was one thing on my bucket list for 26 to advertise the socials once, so I just stepped up and took it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but no. I saw the people responding and reacting. I thought it'd be only fair of us to give them a quick shout out in the chat and be thankful that they're with us once again.
Yeah, it bears repeating that this is a live show for folks listening after the fact. We will be interacting with the chat. Lot of serious and critical comments about certain players in the chat already. I know in our text group, the Turin Giants text group, we have as well. So we will be sure to monitor those and get those address those throughout. We also will have a live correspondent outside of the Allianz. Kevin was at the game, and he will be joining us when he can take a step away from some crowds to answer a few questions, give us sort of the look and feel of how things were in the stadium. What's the feeling now after this disappointing draw? How was the reception and everything surrounding Danilo's return to Juventus that happened before the game, and so on and so forth. So once he pops into the lobby, we'll get him to kind of give us that boots on the ground perspective. But let's kind of get into the game proper here now that Frederic has kindly done all of the housekeeping matters for me. Damiano, when you looked at the starting 11, a 4-3-3 or a 4-3-2-1, depending on how you want to draw it up, I think a lot of us were excited to see that. A lot of us expected Spalletti to kind of move towards that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was probably the strongest 4-3-3 that we could have put out there on paper, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I think Spalletti got it right with the starting 11 today. I didn't see any issues with it, and I thought that was definitely the strongest guys we had out there. We started. I mean, it showed in the first half. I mean, we came out firing on all cylinders.
Well, I guess. Well, to respond to that, was it more Juventus firing out on all cylinders, or was it that Lecce was just bad?
Yeah, a mixture of both.
Well, I mean, which one do you think it is? Do you think it was that? I mean, this was a poor Lecce, or do you think Juventus really just dominated?
I think we played really good this first half. The first half we played really good. We think we dominated. There was an exception or two. I mean, going into halftime down 1-0 after that performance, it was unbelievable. I mean, I think we did not deserve to be down 1-0, and I thought we played very good. We should have been up 6-0 by the end of the first half.
Yeah. When you look at, and I thought the first half was maybe one of the best first halves I've seen us play in a long time, up until the goal. Frederic, who maybe was the one player who lagged behind the rest of the team in terms of performance in that first half?
For me, it was David, in a sense, and I was trying to text you guys that, but then got bothered with other stuff. I just felt that all the things that we created, he wasn't involved as much. And we praised David in the past for that, having that hold-up play that, makes him valuable. He didn't have that as much today, and I felt that he was kind of like the fifth wheel on the wagon at times, because we saw a lot of threat coming from McKenney, from Kenan, also some from Locatelli. But there was the presence of having a killer striker in the box was missing at that point, and I think that's also one of the reasons why we didn't score that first half. I mean, we were close, but we were just not good enough to get that finishing in. I think if you have a killer striker there at times, who you feel comfortable into feeding the ball, because at times I felt that a lot of teammates weren't as comfortable with giving David the ball, and that alone speaks volumes, let alone the rest that happened. I just feel that the cherry on the cake was missing, and you kind of make it hard for yourself at that point if you have such a weak opponent. I think 2 of Lecce's starting 11s literally got off the plane from the Africa Cup of Nations, so they're playing with like 9 or 10 men. But you should be able, at least at first half, to be a bit more concrete. And I think having somebody up front who has a bit more weight to him should add to that. So for me, it was partially David, but I'd like to say, or what I was feeling was that Chico was just not match fit, not ready.
We're gonna get to a couple other players. So I mean, David was the one you highlighted. Earlier this week we released a black and white shout out one of our side projects, Frederic, where Frederic and I debate certain topics. We debated whether Cambiasso should stay. I, with my cowboy hat in tow, defended him, but he has been named many times by the people in chat as someone that people are frustrated with. Damiano, he saw a lot of the ball that first half. Okay, and so Frederic said that David didn't do a lot. Well, Cambiasso had the ball a ton in that first half, had several shots, and had that errant pass. how do you stack up his performance that first half relative to David's or maybe somebody else's on the teams as maybe one lagging behind?
I mean, I didn't think he really played good that first half regardless. I mean, even with, he had maybe 3 out of 10 of his, chances with the ball. He didn't really convert, I would say. So it's like a 30% that to me is he didn't play that good in my opinion. I did like his movement. He moved in the very first couple minutes. You see him moving. He's moving off the ball into the middle, kind of opening up, creating a triangle there, kind of freeing up Kenan. But other than that, I mean, he had like 1 or 2 good balls, but didn't really convert, I think, at all. And I was actually more screaming at the TV about him than for him, because of him, which to me, it wasn't. He wasn't productive in the first half, especially after that pass, but prior to that as well. I think he was mediocre at best.
He had several chances. He wasn't able to capitalize on his chances. And, I've often said that this team, we have to accept that this team is flawed because of the players that we have and the depth and the lack of depth and so on and so forth. It's just that we need to limit the effect or impact of the mistakes that we will make. We made one mistake today on that errant pass and we got burned for it. But going into halftime down 1-0, despite playing really, really well, I wasn't too worried. We come out in the second half. Spalletti makes one change, Frederick, and you kind of were starting to talk about Chico. Do you think that was fitness or performance?
It was performance. I don't think Spalletti would let him start if he wasn't match fit. And if this was something that was scheduled, then I think Spalletti would have addressed that in his pre-match as well. I think Chico was nowhere to be found, was very ineffective, always needed more than 2 touches to either control the ball or do something with it. And you could see that, even his speed wasn't something that, gave us an extra point that we could exploit in that in that game. So I think Chico in this game made himself a bit redundant. And that's kind of the thing that I've been highlighting is the one-dimensionalism that he has. Either he has a very good game or he has a very shit one. There's no games where he just, stands up and leaves a bit of a mark. It's always hit or miss with him. And that's going to cost you, and it's cost him personally because I feel that he's losing his grip on the starting 11 now because we can see that Spalletti has other options, has also other tactical formations in mind, which makes me, as we did together with the Scoop where we evaluated his transfer, even doubt his transfer a bit more. And the fact that it's pretty costly for what he offers, and the same could be said for many others.
Yeah, with him, we wanted to see growth in his game because in a sort of midfield set, he's able to cause that little bit of havoc. He, and certainly last season, popped up with a lot of really important goals in key moments this year. I think he's a little bit lacking on the goals. He doesn't have any assists, if I'm not mistaken. I think really what it's been is he's had a lot of opportunity because of the persistent injuries to Zagrova. But if Zagrova's got 45 minutes in his legs, and I'm not sure he does, that should put him under point of concern because we haven't seen that production. We haven't seen him improve in between the boxes, where I've specifically asked him to be a little bit more impactful than simply just being a guy at the corner of the box who can cut 1 or 2 ways. I do think, though, it's a little unfair to pick on Chico. I don't think he was the key player at fault for a lot of what happened today. Before we get to the penalty, and we're going to spend a lot of time, I think, talking about the penalty, let's talk about the equalizing goal for a counterattack from Yildiz to McKenney. Frederick, you had said that you saw more forward runs from McKenney than David. I think, in my opinion at least, that's what I would expect from a 4-3-3 with McKenney in the midfield, where they do these overlapping runs. McKenney goes forward, David draw back. In fact, we saw that in their positioning a lot. And McKenney, once again, since Spalletti has joined, has put himself in a position and then capitalize on an offensive position, is One, talk about the moment, and then maybe take a step back as you think about Kenny's influence on this team. We've talked a lot about it. Is he somebody that this current iteration of Juventus can lose, considering the production and role that he plays?
Well, to answer the first question, I think McKenney is of vital importance to this team. He shows that week in, week out, and the weeks that he doesn't have a very good game, which are seldom, then he tries to counterbalance that with work rate and kilometers ran on the pitch and effort and whatnot. So in that respect, he's somebody who always gives everything he's got, even though at times he's a bit, I think, limited sounds negative, but he's not a world-class midfielder. He's a very good one, maybe our best one, but that doesn't automatically make him a world-class one, if you know what I mean. At this point in time, he's very important to Juventus. And I think that we need to also understand the fact that if we are going to let him go in some way, shape, or form, that you would need at least two players to come in order to balance the work rate or the efficiency that McKenney has, which might not be a bad thing, because I think McKenney would shine less if our forwards shined more brightly, so to speak. And considering the fact that this is just not happening, it's McKenney who also has to double team and make a difference in the box in some way or another. Which is good for him and for the team as well. But, I think after this game, we need to ask ourselves some questions about, the current forwards and their impact on the game. Because if McKenney can have such a massive impact on every game, while our forwards don't seem to have any, apart from Kenan, who I don't really consider a straightforward, then maybe it's time to, list up the pluses and minuses at the end of the season and see what we can build around and on who we can build on, because it's a bit of a double-edged sword at this point. But also the fact that McKenney's asking for almost 6 million net doesn't make our negotiation position that much easier. So we'll see where that ship sails to.
McKenney, I think, had a solid game, but he showed up, as he has recently, getting on the score sheet. Let's talk about some of the other midfielders, Damiano. I think there's some comments here about Locatelli in the midfield, but I want to start with Thuram, because to me, he didn't seem to impact the game very much. And so I'm wondering what you saw from Thuram, especially because when Juventus has played really, or when Cambiasso has played really well, and oftentimes when Yildiz has been able to kind of be unlocked, you see Thuram interchanging with the aforementioned successfully. I didn't see that much today. What do you take of Thuram's performance and his overall impact, if any, on this game?
Well, Zach, I'm glad you asked, because I personally thought Thuram looked lost, and he had cinder block feet. Like, he was not moving. He did not defensively. He was just lost. He looked like he was in the wrong place at times. Didn't know where to be. I felt our two midfield. I mean, Locatelli did a better, but I mean, Thuram was not. I did not like it. I did not like his play at all, actually. And I actually kind of like Thuram going, for the most part. But today it was just clearly lost. Defensively, was nowhere to be found on when they're Lecce's countering. Again, nowhere to be found. Confused, clustering with his own teammates. It's just, he's just, and the passing wasn't. He just going side to side. Not really. He did make one or two through balls. Actually, I take that back. But other than that, I mean, he was not moving. He was not moving offensively. There was open spaces. He wasn't moving. He was just standing still, and it was a little frustrating, I thought.
Let's move to Locatelli, Frederic. And without speaking broadly about what you feel about Locatelli, let's just put our blinders on in the context of this game. How did you think his performance was? We applaud Locatelli with his defensive work. Didn't really need to do much of that today, right? It's one-way traffic for the most part. How do you think he played relative to trying to build up the play and facilitate possession forward?
I think this is my main gripe overall with Locatelli. Once he has the liberty to do so, he doesn't do that as much as we expect. And I don't expect him, excuse me, to make an attacking difference against Real Madrid or every Champions League game. But if you come up against this Lecce that's primarily focused on defending, and you have the quality and the skill that Locatelli has, you'd expect him to push that up a notch, and make sure that the tempo or the serving tempo towards your forwards is a bit more consistent, a lot more faster, a lot more direct. And that's something I missed today. He didn't play a bad game. I'm not gonna throw mud at the guy, but this was one of the games where you need your midfield to just storm through the opponent's midfield, and this just didn't happen. If you look at the second half, he started dramatically. He touched 3 balls and he gave away 3 of them. Of course, in his own defense, afterwards, he made a good contribution to the goal. But this is something he could do a lot more often, and he just doesn't show it. And this is my main frustration, because if you have the skill, the quality, and the insight to do so, why do it so rarely or so occasionally? I mean, you should expect your midfield as a whole to be a bit more fluid at times. And I think this is the main gripe with all of our midfield, including Thuram at a certain extent, is that if they're not overperforming, they're underperforming to our standards, I feel, and to Juventus's standards. And I think this is the main gripe, and we spoke about that last season as well, to get back on Thuram. I think, Zach, you and I both agree that he was overperforming, and that's why his impact was so vast last season. And now he's just fallen back to being good old Catherine, which is just not good enough in terms of what Juventus must expect from their midfielders. So I think that the similarities between Locatelli and Thuram are a bit the same. If they're not overperforming, they're underperforming. And that leads to, our attack being utilized in a very one-dimensional way. And we're able to be a bit dangerous, but the effectiveness that we need in order to bring games home is missing a bit, and it all starts from your midfield on, in my opinion.
All right, I'm going to give this to both of you, starting with Fred, since you're just talking. Three starting midfielders: McKenney, Locatelli, Thuram. Who played the best down to who played the worst in your evaluation?
Best was McKenney, without a shadow of a doubt, and the worst was Thuram.
Chat, I want you to put this in chat as well, please, for everyone watching. We're sort of just processing this game, but please participate. Put who you thought from a midfield perspective, best and worst. Damiano.
I mean, I'd have to agree. I mean, McKenney definitely played the best, and Thuram by far played the worst. Locatelli was mediocre, average. I mean, he had moments of positive and negative. I mean, so yeah, I would say that would same order.
I'm purposely saving forwards for last, so let's just talk because that's going to be around. We're going to around our discussion of the penalty and a lot of missed opportunities as well. Let's quickly look at our defense. We talked Cambiasso a little bit. I don't know if we need to talk any more about him, but let's talk about Kelly, Bremer, and Kalulu. Arguably, I mean, well, do you guys attribute any of the goal blame to a guy like Bremer, who kind of stepped in aggressively and they were able to dribble around? Damiano, do you how much do you to apportion? Actually, we'll do this because I know Frederico wants to talk Di Gregorio. We'll lump him into this discussion as well. On that goal that we conceded, Damiano, what percentage do you blame Cambiasso? What percentage out of 100 Bremer, and then Di Gregorio?
To me, it's Cambiasso. I mean, what are you doing? Like, if he just everything about it to me was just Cambiasso. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Cambiasso had all the blame on that one. Just the mentality to just pass it right in front and not even have enough on the ball. Like, it's just sitting right there. You gotta, if you're gonna pass it in front of the net like that, dude, with the poses, you got to make sure you're getting a guy on your team. You're not just throwing it out there in the middle and no. I don't know, man. I would say it's all Cambiasso, in my opinion.
100% Cambiasso, says Damiano. Frederic, I'm giving you an opportunity to talk Di Gregorio. Several people in chat have noted Di Gregorio should deserve some of the blame on that goal conceded. Same question to you. Of those 3 players, how do you partition blame?
I think, in my opinion, Bremer has the least percentage of blame, because from the replay I could see, while he was intervening, he was already in the penalty box, and you could see that he was a bit cautious not to draw out a penalty because as a defender, you always have that feeling like, hey, there's still a goalie in goal. Well, not at Juventus, guys. So you could argue that the most blame goes to Cambiasso. I'd say, to shift it in percentage wise, I'd say 70% Cambiasso, 20% Digre, and 10% on Bremer. Bremer maybe should have been a bit more aggressive there because I don't see a referee giving a penalty there if you take the ball clearly, especially because it was a chaotic moment. But Cambiasso, and this is something that has been learned to me from since I was a small kid, like if you're in a wingback position, you never play the ball that far out
Centrally,
horizontal.
you don't play it centrally. Like
Never. You either boot it out or just play it towards the line or central midfieldish, but you never ever do this. And this is something because I thought that Cambiasso was having a fairly good game apart from the miss, but you could argue that there's always one moment in a game where Cambiasso gets his blackout moment, and that often leads to a goal or something weird that's happening on the pitch. So for me, putting trust in Cambiasso, no, I don't have any trust in him in the role that he's playing. And then back to Di Gregorio. I mean, I find it very weird that a lot of keepers that we play against, they get Superman qualities all of a sudden. Keepers, I mean, while Di Gregorio never seems to pull out something noteworthy. I don't think that this was an unsavable shot. I think this could have been managed better. I'm not saying he's all to blame there, but at those moments, those precise moments, the make or break moments, you expect your keeper to be a bit more secure or at least pull something out of his hat at times. And I felt that he was fairly late reacting again, and I've talked about this in lengths. I think that his reaction speed is just subpar in order to contribute something. If you look at Falcone, who in my opinion is not a great keeper, but this was one of his better games because he has quick reaction speed. Di Gregorio doesn't, and he falls short at times. And it's once again the quality thing that comes into play. If you have quality players that can make quality or do quality things at certain given points in a game, then you can win points. If you have players that fumble or just lose the plot at any given time and are not capable of bringing that quality in towards the game, then you'll have outcomes like these.
I want to thank real quickly, and I know Damiano, you want to say something, but I want to thank Ahmad, Del Piero, Randy, Mitch, Lukic for answering our previous question. Y'all put how much blame do you partition to Cambiasso, Di Gregorio, and Bremer for the goal into chat? Damiano, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I believe this is the second time Cambiasso has done this versus Lecce. So this is like a reoccurring theme here with him and Lecce. He gave up a goal, I think was it last year or the year before when we played Lecce at like the 90th minute. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
Like, part of me is like, you can't be that dumb to square a ball to nobody in the middle of a goal like that. Like, is it the Frederic, and this is to you, Damiano, is this the Frederic blackout moment we're talking about? Or is it complacency in Cambiasso, do you think, from, just how badly we were dominating Lecce? Like, why do we see these moments? Why do we see these moments? And notably here from Cambiasso, but from some of our other players, where we know that there's a mistake in them. It's a lack of focus. Like, what? Like, why do you think this is? Because it's so frustrating, and I mean, I'm often at loss for words and what I'm looking at.
Yeah, you and me both, man. I wish I knew. I would say that I think Cambiasso does have this blackout moment. I believe every game, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they'll throw in. Was it last week against Pisa? Was just abysmal. Like, what's he doing? And I think he just has one bad moment every game. And yeah, because they are bad. Exactly. I mean,
It's also football intelligence. If you have some football intelligence and some uh mental, ability to bounce back, then these things don't happen. These things happen when you lose focus, when you lose concentration. And to me, that's a testament of players that might be good, because I think Cambiasso is a good player in his day, but these are, the prototypes of players that won't be world class players ever, just due to, those minuses that they have. And with Cambiasso, it's that mental thing where he goes and loses his focus. I don't know why. I don't know what, maybe there's like some sort of medical reasoning behind it. I don't even know. But just goes to show a player who makes that many mistakes that often, that repetitively, will not ever be a world class player. Not at Juventus, not at Manchester City, whatever you want to call it. This is a player that excels in a Premier League where you play and a Manchester City team who dominates opponents 70% of the time, who get given some space, and where tactical awareness is dialed down to one or two, and you could just run and do your thing. But in Italy, and especially in games like these that are very gritty, very compact, and very, let's say, typical for Italian football, he falls short.
All right, gents, I think it's time to move to the 66th minute and move our analysis away from defenders, away from Di Gregorio, away from our midfielders, and talk about our center forward position. So in the 66th minute of today's game, Damiano, we were awarded a penalty that Jonathan David won, put a pressure on the player. Deflection came off his hand, and we got a penalty. Now, from my feed, it didn't look like Jonathan David like scooped up the ball and was like, I'm taking this. It looked like the team kind of granted him the penalty. Is that the view that you got as well?
Yeah, I didn't see, he didn't like emphatically, state his dominance to the rest of the guys or anything, but yeah, it's what it looked like. The team just kind of, nobody really stepped up besides him, and he just kind of was the guy with the ball in hand.
Now, Frederic, you have a different feed than we do, I think, in Europe. Did you see the same sort of situation as we did, or did it look like he sort of from your feed, was he sort of granted the penalty, or did he sort of take it?
I think it was a mixture of both. I think nobody was, and with nobody I mean Kenan or even Locatelli, had this urging feeling to start a discussion on the pitch. And I think Yildiz, after that, just handed them the ball. Might be because of what David asked him, could well be. I don't think it was what Spalletti wanted, and we didn't follow the hierarchy that we have, which is a player's choice in the moment. Because if Yildiz wants to give this ball to David, or David asks the ball, then you better be damn sure that you score. And he didn't, and I blame Locatelli there, in all honesty.
I mean, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But you touched on something I want to address first, because it was a few games ago, and we talked about this on our podcast. But I think the big discussion was when you and I, Frederic, were on Bepe's stream, where Bepe was like, "Why didn't they give the penalty to Jonathan David?" I forget the game exactly, and we disagreed very much so. Of like granting a player who might be out of form or who needs a goal to take a penalty. And I fervently defended the hierarchy as it's drawn up. Now, those discussions are often hypothetical until we get a situation like today, where I lord in my correctness, but all at the same time bemoan my correctness. Because when you go outside of it, that puts way more pressure on the individual to score, doesn't it, Damiano?
It puts a ton of pressure on the individual, especially when they're not performing. I mean, if they're not performing, they're already going into it with the mentality of almost at a loss in a sense. And so, yeah, it adds more pressure to the situation, most definitely.
And of course, we saw the quality of penalty. Frederic, Can you think of a worse penalty that ended up on goal?
No. Even in my semi-professional days, I was the designated penalty taker, and I always just made sure that I chose my angle. I try to place it in an angle, sometimes very hard with a powerful shot, sometimes a bit more placed. But, taking a penalty like this and technically failing because he wanted to do the cucchiaio, but, he failed miserably. You fail twice on one penalty, man. I mean, I don't know what a player in that headspace is thinking of. I don't know what the added value is there. And if you're a Zidane or a Totti or a Del Piero, and you're doing this while the world is watching, you're confident enough, and granted, I can understand it, but this game where you're drawing, a game that you're dominating, you don't seem able to score one way or the other, and you get this, rolled out red carpet, just slot it past the keeper and get it over with. I just don't see this having to add that extra touch, especially when you're low on confidence as David is. I don't know. You can argue about who has to take the penalty, and I think every opinion there matters, and everything.
We're going to talk about that, Frederick. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah, but the way that you take this penalty, that speaks volumes to me of your qualities as a player, not only mentally but also technically, because in no way, shape, or form should that even come up in your head to try to perform that when you haven't scored in Serie A since the ending of August. I mean, let that sink in. He hasn't scored since the end of August. I think it was 27 or 28. I can't remember. So now in January of 2026, you get this red carpet invitation to score, and you do it like that. I mean, it boggles my mind, honestly.
I think if I could butt in here, Zach. Sorry
Yeah,
to
go
cut
ahead.
you off. Falcone he went to one side, and it was such a poor PK that he saved it with his foot, meaning that the ball didn't even barely got off the ground, like with no oomph or nothing. Like it's unbelievable how bad that of a PK that was, and the mentality that he had going into it just showed.
So now let's get talking about blame. By the way, Frederick, I totally forgot this is our first episode in the new year. I was so grumpy about this game that there was no Happy New Year's. There was nothing because I just was grumpy and we got into it.
Happy New Year!
Yeah. We all agree it was a horrendous penalty. So we're not going to debate that. No one is going to argue it was good in the chat or otherwise. Let's talk about whether he should have ever taken it and what that means for the leadership on this team. Because a couple guys in chat have already said, like, how can you blame Locatelli, and so forth, while other people were, like you said, Frederick, you said you do blame Locatelli. Some people agreed right off the bat. There is, as a matter of fact, a penalty-taking hierarchy at Juventus. There are at least two players, Locatelli and Yildiz, right, that are above Jonathan David on that, from my knowledge. Right, Frederick?
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, Jonathan David took it. He was given the ball from Yildiz. When you say you blame Locatelli, Frederick, explain why.
Well, I think if you're the captain and you're first on the list, you should intervene. There should never be any sort of going back and forth about who has to take this. I think you, as the voice of the coach, I mean, that's your role as a captain. You should just go out and say, okay, I'm gonna take this, or Kenan's gonna take this, and take that responsibility on your shoulders, because you see that Kenan is way too young to take that responsibility, and maybe because he's too naive, because we saw it previously with the free kick where Jigrova steps up and takes it, while I see training videos of Kenan slotting every free kick into the back of the net. Meanwhile, we can't even get one shot on target from a free kick. So there's some discrepancy there, and I think that you, as as a captain, regardless if you're on the sheet or not, have to take that responsibility and say, okay, back up. This is what we're gonna do. And then at least, when it doesn't work out and somebody misses, because everybody can miss a penalty, at least you as a captain can come out and say, look, it was on me. Therefore, relieving pressure off of whether it be yourself or Kenan or Jonathan David in this. But now it's, everybody's focusing on Jonathan David, and rightfully so, but that doesn't do the guy any good at this point in time. So Locatelli should have stepped up and took his responsibility, I think. And I see Mikkel Heideby responding in the chat that would have been disrespectful. I don't think so. If you look back at recent history where we had captains like Del Piero or whatever, there was always that hierarchy that was established. I can even remember a time when Trezeguet took a penalty. Del Piero handed the ball to him, and Del Piero afterwards took the responsibility on him, saying, I was the designated penalty taker, but I gave it to David because I felt confident and whatever. So it's not about what happens at that point. It's what, can happen if it goes sideways. And you need to have that perspective as a captain, I feel. And this is just...
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because Locatelli is above Yildiz in the penalty taking hierarchy, right? So if he comes in, especially as captain, as high, and he says it's mine, everyone backs off. I mean, that's not disrespectful. That's the natural order of things. But he didn't, Damiano. And is this more of a story of a horrible penalty from a player who doesn't have full confidence, or is this a story of a leader who didn't step up and lead?
Locatelli, I don't believe is a leader. He did not show, because that's what a captain does in that moment. The captain designates who gets, if the hierarchy, if Kenan wants to take it, he gives the ball to Kenan, and if he doesn't, then okay, then I'm going to make that decision. I'm not just going to let David get the ball and not say anything. I don't think Locatelli shows leadership in many ways, on the field and off the field. But I think that's also, it also goes hand in hand with David not having the confidence, and you're going to allow him, that, and the hierarchy. I think that it falls, I think it's two stories are being told here, but the predominant one is there's no leadership with Locatelli. There's lack of leadership coming from him, and he's doesn't show.
Also,
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I see people in the chat saying, that's not a good look. If you're the captain of a team and you're respected by your team and you just walk up to the ball, your players or your teammates, out of respect, hand you the ball if you command respect and authority as a captain. And I've seen this many a times, even when I was playing. This is not of having a good look or fighting over a ball. This is a captain making a decision on the pitch, which everybody needs to respect. And there won't be a fight, because if a true captain steps up and is respected and well regarded by his teammates, the discussion ends there. It would be the same as if Spalletti would say, I want so on and so on to take that penalty, and the discussion would stop there because he's your coach and you're basically the coach's voice on the pitch, in my opinion.
So what's a better, before I ask my question, I kind of want, because the chat is both ways on this. Folks, put in the chat, who do you think is more responsible for the situation? David or Locatelli? I'm curious to see kind of what the consensus is in chat. As to your great look comment, and I'm going to ask both of you this question. I'll start with Damiano. What's a worse look? Locatelli coming in, demanding the ball that had been given to David. He takes the penalty and misses it. Or the situation that played out exactly as it did today. What's a worse look?
That's tough. I mean, that's the results. They both miss it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. They miss it. I mean,
but I think the thing is, it kind of gets to the heart of what you guys were talking about. I think is if Locatelli comes in, demands it, and misses it, that's he is meant as a captain to bear the weight of responsibility in that moment. Is the result the same? Yes. But the accountability goes on the person that it should. We're spending however many minutes talking about David taking one of the worst penalties I've ever seen when he should have never taken it in the first place.
I also think, Locatelli could have handed the ball to Kenan and kind of distributed it, like, because there's a hierarchy. So if it's not him, then give the ball to Kenan. You could do that too. I mean, I'm pretty sure I believe Locatelli and Kenan would have slotted that home, but we don't know because they both didn't take it at the end of the day.
Frederic.
But I feel like if you're first on the sheet in terms of penalty taking, there's a reasoning behind that. It's not like if Spalletti grabbed the box, put in player's name, and said, "Oh, I'm just gonna pick any random player who needs to know." Probably within training, you have sessions where you practice penalties, and the player with the best average result gets number one or starts. And in that case, it was Locatelli. So on paper, you have statistically a higher chance of Locatelli scoring. But that's not the case. Even if Locatelli wasn't on the sheet, I feel that in those situations, you need to read the game and see, okay, maybe this is not David's time. And regardless, even if he was having a great game, you should say, okay, Kenan needs to take this, or whoever is designated to take it, takes it. And I take responsibility as a captain. If he misses, he misses. If he scores, he scores. But I'll be there to defend my players and the choice and the reasoning behind that. That's my opinion.
That's what leaders do. And that's what a captain is supposed to be, as a leader. And that, I think, is what we're lacking with Locatelli.
Well, let's expand out. Obviously, that penalty is a very notable moment in today's game. But we had lots and lots of chances. Openda had one late in the game, kind of a pseudo open net. I mean, Falcone was kind of diving back across. Didn't matter. Shot wasn't on goal. Cambiasso had a shoe in. David had a header off the post. Kenan had the shot off the post. There were a lot of chances. Is it fair to hang so much of this episode and maybe this game on that penalty? Is that fair to the team, or is that what you should expect when you get awarded a penalty that you don't convert, Damiano?
Like I said earlier, I think we should have been up 6-0 in the first half. I mean, we had so many chances that we didn't, like, we couldn't convert any of them. So, it just happens to be that missed penalty, we drew and lost 2 points based on, because if we convert that, which 9 times out of 10 is converted, I mean, we're talking about that more. But we had chances. We had plenty of chances that we needed one more. We just needed to convert one. I mean,
Frederic, same question to you, and then we're going to turn over to Spalletti's words. Frederic, are we putting too much importance on that moment in a game where we had a bunch of moments where we could have scored or should have scored?
Well, a penalty is the most easiest way to score a goal. Mm-hmm. That's just pure mathematics. So it's a missed opportunity in that respect. On the other hand, we should be creating substantially. I'm not going to say more, but we should be more clinical. And I think that's the pressing point here, because if you see that Yildiz is the one who has the most fantasy and the most technical ability, but he doesn't get to convert chances or create them, then, it has to be others that do that. And we talked about McKenney doing that, which is fine, but you bought players as strikers in order for them to score goals. And if you have people who haven't scored since the end of August starting a game against a very weak Lecce side and still not being able, despite chances and a penalty, not being able to score, then maybe you have to go back to the drawing board, especially in June, because we've been very lenient about David or the other forwards that we have. But maybe it's also time to take a step back and see what Spalletti has done to the team, which is very positive, I feel. But, we can't expect Spalletti to step up and kick the ball in the back of the net. So, there's just so much that he can do in terms of playing style, in terms of mentality, in terms of aggressiveness. And it all boils down to the fact that are these players good enough to convert those amazing performances that we sometimes pull out of our hats into wins? And the answer today was no. So there is a lack of quality in every department, and I think the way that we'll handle that will say a lot about our future. Juventus, I feel.
Well, it's we were going to go to Spalletti's comments, but before we go to his extremely important comments post game, I want to go to our live correspondent in Torino, Kevin. There he is, the man who went to the game. I am so sorry that this was the game you went to, Kevin. Can you hear us?
Ciao ragazzi, yes, I can hear you well. And say hello to my friend Luca. He can't hear you, but
well, hey, Luca.
He sat next to me painfully throughout that match.
Well, we got a few questions for you, then we'll let you go. We've are 50 minutes into discussing this really disappointing result. What is the feeling in Torino amongst Juventini after this game?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, for those on the YouTube lives, thanks for being with our team. It's always a pleasure. And those who made it this far into the podcast, listening later, thanks for being with us. So to answer the question, my friend and I just keep looking at each other, just dumbfounded, like on the tram. We were sitting across from each other and just really struggling for words in a game where we had 70+% possession, 25 attempts, and it played reasonably well at times, hit the woodwork twice, have a PK, and your goalkeeper makes 0 saves and they score with their only shot of the game. How do you tie that match? And when the final whistle blew, it was silent. It was a weird feeling because it just, no one could really believe that this is where we found ourselves after 96+ minutes of football. It wasn't anger. It wasn't vehement like booing and jeering of the team. That did happen at times, but it was, I think, just utter disbelief.
Let's talk about the booing, because from my feed, we could hear the crowd having sometimes visceral reactions to certain players getting on the ball. It seemed mostly from, again, my feed, that it was Jonathan David and Andrea Cambiasso. From your perspective, what was the, and we talked a lot about in this episode already, those two players. What was the crowd's feeling? Which one was driving y'all the most crazy in terms of their performance today?
I think there was real anger and frustration directed at Cambiasso. And I think it's just been building up. And every person around me, and talking to a few folks before the match, just how he has completely underperformed all season, which we've talked about ad nauseum on our podcast. And I'm sure you've done that already. But every misplaced pass, every time he's taking too long on the ball, making the wrong decision, there's just a lot of displeasure. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anger kind of vented at him. David, I don't even know if people know how to respond to how he's playing. And he's just not doing a striker's job. He's not shooting when he should be. He's taking extra touches. He's okay in the build-up, but he's not doing the striker's job. And when he was given the penalty, I don't know if it was picked up on TV, but the stadium was surprised because Locatelli picked up the ball while the ref was looking at the VAR replays, and then he handed it to Yildiz. Yildiz was holding the ball, going to take it, and then hands it to David. And then when everybody stepped away for him to take it, the stadium went like gasped. So I'm sure David, hearing that, got in his head because we just have a bunch of mentally weak players. And you saw what that yielded. A player in that position who is going through a, I don't know, confidence crisis or a period of bad form. You go back to the basics. You're a professional footballer making 6 million net per year. You've been playing this game since you were probably 4 years old. Hit it hard to the corner. What are you doing trying to fluff it like almost Panenka style in the middle? Why would you do that? Just get back to basics. It gets back to the, I think, mentally weak and the fragility of some of these players.
Final question for you. We didn't talk about it at all on this episode so far, but the Juventus welcome back Danilo. And I know you posted on our Instagram, Turin Giants, folks. Fantastic Instagram coverage from Kevin over the course of today. Tell us a little bit about that moment. How was he received? And then we'll let you go. Obviously, you're walking at night, so we'll let you go after that.
Trying to find something to eat. Yeah, that was the highlight of the evening, getting to see Il Capitano Danilo return to the Allianz. He stepped onto the field, I think, kind of right before the players. No, it was right before they were going into the locker room. So a couple players went over and embraced him from during the warm-ups. Spalletti came over, gave him a really nice hug. And then there was a presentation. I think Scanavino said a few words. Sorry, drawing a blank, not Scanavino.
Ferrero.
Yeah, Ferrero, the guy who falls asleep. Yeah. Ferrero gave him a kind of a weird, cheesy looking plaque and said some nice things about him. Chiellini presented him with a jersey with his number of appearances, and Danilo took the mic and spoke for a couple minutes, and just how Turin was home and how he just had nothing but great memories over his 5+ years here. It was great to be back with the fans. It was just really, really pleasant. And the ultras were singing and sang a song to him. And then after he received the personalized jersey, he walked over to Curva Sud and they started singing, and he was jumping with his kids. So it was pretty cool. Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
Well, thank
As
you.
one does when you're yelling at your team.
Yeah. Well, hey, Kevin, thank you so much. I know you're busy and you had a lot going on in a disappointing game. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us a little bit of the boots on the ground perspective. We will talk to you soon, but go get something to eat. And thank you for
good
joining.
to see you guys. Damiano, Frederick.
Enjoy, bro.
Pleasure as always. Cheers.
Likewise, Kevin. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao,
right.
ciao, Kev.
And that was our impromptu segment live with Kevin in Torino. So let's and thank you, Kevin, for doing that for us. We Frederic, myself, and Kevin will be live. Maybe not live, but we will be at the Napoli game later this month, hopefully with a much better result. Frederic, let's kind of end today's podcast. We're at about the hour mark anyways. Let's end it with quotes and commentary with regards from Spalletti and anybody else who was interviewed. I know you have them pulled up. Why don't you give us some of the key quotes from Spalletti?
Well, Spalletti basically stated that that we played a good game and that we should just make better decisions. He said at times when we came in the penalty area, we were too concerned with passing it around or whatever. Sometimes we need to be less archaic and less confused and just take the shot. And there was a lot of talk about, the penalty. And at that point, Spalletti answered to the journalist, maybe you guys should take the penalties. He was a bit agitated.
That's a grumpy coach right there.
He was a bit grumpy and he said, well, I'll defend my players. And, whoever takes up the responsibility needs to be applauded for that, regardless of the outcome. They're all penalty takers. And So he was basically defending them. Also said some words about Openda and the missed chance, and as a whole, how much that these missed opportunities for the forwards, how much they weigh or have to be taken into consideration. And he said we don't have to lose faith in them because they will make a difference, but we have to talk together and we have to see that we get on the same level as a team. And there was also a question asked that if a number of players are suffering from the pressure, and he said no, or they shouldn't be, because this is Juventus and we have to have a bit of continuity, and we have to learn that how to handle that pressure, because character is something that is very important in the sport. So he was basically, to evaluate, because I'm reading several things here from the Zone and on the conference afterwards. He was basically shielding his players, but is agitated about the loss in points, but still taking his players into protection. I think McKenney always also chimed in and said, well, Openda and David, well, we're a family, so we need to stick together. So let's not resort to, giving people their accolades for a good performance, or criticizing them when they do something that is not what we expect. Also, Bremer was a bit agitated and said, well, these games concern me because these are games that we need to win, and we fall short. So he was a bit more aggressive in his approach to that respect. But there's a lot of awareness I could tell from players that these are missed 3 points, and I'd also like to step back on, because we're hanging David out to dry and a number of players, but Openda should have scored that rebound as well.
It's both of them. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
look, the moment today was the penalty. I mean, we talked about it and we kind of emphasized, it's the highest chance possibility to score despite the other opportunities. But this is not a David problem per se. This is a striker position. Even Vlahovic before his injury was wildly inconsistent. And that's been an area, before Colomani joined and after Colomani didn't join us permanently, that we have struggled mightily with consistency. And so I think that in a lot of ways will be the story of maybe the second half of this season.
Yeah, and also the thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But we need to be very, very, how shall I put it, cautious about the way we look, and we need to help David get out of this impasse. And we need to. This is not a psychology degree that we're taking. We're a football club, and I'm sorry. But you have to pay attention that you don't hurt his or her feelings. Get out of here with that bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I can understand the psychological level, and that's why I think it's a good thing that David wasn't subbed, because I think a lot of players would have subbed David. So that's a good thing. But then stating that you need to give the ball to X, Y, or Z because he hasn't scored in such a long time. I mean, it's his job. There's nobody in my job that comes out with a handout saying, you done poorly. Here's part of my salary because, you're struggling. I mean, they get paid a lot of money, and we need to have that energy and that drive, and the responsibilities need to be met. If you're the designated person to do X, Y, or Z, then you should try to perform that. So as I applaud a psychological approach in terms of players that are not, doing their utmost or not performing as they should, I can respect that. But it doesn't mean that we have to be, all friendly and please pay attention and walk on eggshells or do this or that because the other person might get offended. I mean, the number one thing is getting results in, and we didn't today. So every player, I feel, should look in the mirror and be self-aware and self-critical. And, in my opinion, that's it. And I think it's good for Spalletti to defend his players and his team, because there's no point in bashing other players as well. But I do feel that if Spalletti was given a big bag of money and saying, hey, here's 40 million euros for another striker, venture to have a guess, or would you try to seek out somebody else? I think you would, because these are not Spalletti type strikers, and they're both lackluster at this point. So we need to intervene there, in my opinion.
Damiano, have you lost belief, or did you, maybe you never had belief, but did you lose belief in David and Openda to be able to do the job for Juventus this season?
I mean, they just haven't. Sometimes Openda has shown. I mean, not many, but lately he's been showing signs that, okay, maybe he can be of something for Juventus. But at this moment in time, David, no, just by the amount of goals he scored for Juve this season. I mean, and it's just like, I don't know if it's his confidence or what, but I don't think he's going to be our guy. I don't see him being a guy who could be a striker for a quality Juventus. No. And Openda, it varies, but again, this is basically due to his last few games. Prior to that, I really did not see him fitting into the squad either. So I'm hope is not fully lost, but it is on way of being lost. It's on path of being lost.
Yeah, the Kevin texted us that everybody around him in the stadium was saying that Openda and David need to go back to France and Germany, that they have no business being in Italian football. And while I think that's maybe an aggressive take, these players now we're almost halfway through the season. I think we're 1 or 2 games shy of the midpoint, and they have each 1 goal in Serie A, and that's just baffling. Let's be honest. That is just
for the amount that we paid. Yeah,
baffling. Well, I mean, we
Not
paid
even
nothing,
that.
we paid nothing for
mean-
either of them yet. But if you look at salaries, right?
no, that's what I'm saying. The salary.
David is our second highest earner behind Vlahovic, and I think if his salary, and if we were to purchase him, Openda would be what, Frederic, something like 4th on our team. He earns
3rd
a lot
even.
too. He earns a lot.
3rd even. Yeah.
I mean, these are both expensive players who are just not getting. And so, maybe one thing to talk about is, or I guess a question, Frederic, is, I've talked a lot about the potential of these players, how they can fit in the team and what roles they can fill up. Is it time to be done with what they can do, instead start judging them exclusively on their performance?
Well, I think we agreed that when Vlahovic was out, that we were going to, be dependent somewhat of them, and thus far they let us down. So
it was their moment. It was their moment. They could either rescue us or fall flat on their face, and the team would lag.
Yeah, and if you say that, we have a squad that just holds possession, doesn't create any chances, and makes it very difficult for a striker to score as a whole, then I would agree with you, because you're not putting your strikers in the ideal circumstances to produce something. But the last couple of games that we've seen, we were very dominant. We were very much at the other goal end. We were very persuasive, as in, trying to bring in somewhat attacking style play. So if you look at that and you see the things that they miss, I mean, if you look at Openda, and I hear people saying, yeah, but it was not easy. I'm sorry. If you're a professional football player, this is a clear-cut chance. And I'm not saying it's a goal 100% of the time, but it needs to be on target. The same with Cambiasso's shot. That needs to be on target.
Dude, that one.
I mean,
these
are the basics. And if you fail in those basics individually, then you can't excel as a team, because Bremer can, save 4 or 5 goals that are potentially made and lets 1 pass. But if you, as a striker unit, as a midfield unit, are not able to score, then the game's done anyway. So if you don't reinforce defensively in the midfield and striker-wise, then it's going to be a lot of these games. And we were just, we had some bad luck that Kenan didn't have his scoring boots on today. But you can't rely on a 21-year-old to save your asses every time. You need to form more of a unit, and you need to have more of a structure and a team and essentially a killer up front that gets chances and buries them. And we just don't have that. So I'd say to Kamoli, back to the drawing board and to intervene on Mikael Heideby's question. I think we'll do a black and white discussion about Comoli. But I think, in all fairness, we need to do one maybe after this transfer market, Zach. We'll talk about that. But there are things that need to be adjusted within this team because Comoli Spalletti is doing everything he can do at this point. There's not much that you can blame Spalletti for.
No, you can't blame Spalletti, right? I mean, Damiano, we talked about it. He puts maybe his best 11 out there for much of the game. For almost all of the game, they dominate. They create tons of chances, right? Is there anything more that you think Spalletti could have done from a subs to a starting 11 to influence this game?
No, I thought he coached it I thought it was pretty well done on Spalletti's part.
Yeah. I think this comes down to sort of the synopsis that this is a flawed team, and we need to make sure that when we do make mistakes, because we will, they're not the kinds that bite us in the butt. Today, that's exactly the case, at least on that first goal. Now, Mikel also says time to prepare for Europa League. So let's look at the table, because the table, hilariously, does not necessarily tell that same message. Despite a disappointing result against a poor team, Roma, who's playing right now, is losing 2-0 against Atalanta, which means that we would end today in 4th place ahead of Roma with, let's see, let me just verify, with Sassuolo on Tuesday, Cremonese on the following Monday, and Cagliari on Saturday the 17th. The next 3 league games being ones that, like against Lecce, we should win. Do you think in any way, shape, or form, Damiano, that today's draw, in light of what I just said, kills our chances at top 4? Do you think we're still very much in line to meet our sporting goals?
I mean, if we could start winning these types of games, would be ideal. Yeah, I think we're in the top 4 if Roma loses, right? So I mean, we still have like a good amount of the season left to go, if not half. So if we have to start winning these types of games, these games are crucial to win. If we don't win these types of games, then yeah, we're gonna fall. We're gonna drop. I mean, Como's hot. They're coming up right behind us. And Sassuolo, they're not as bad as we, we kind of make them out to be.
Yeah, they're 10th.
But yeah. So I mean, like, we got to start winning games like this game against the Lecce, against the Verona, Fiorentina. These types of games we got to win. And that's it.
Are we going to look back at this game, Frederic, and at the end of the season and say this was the game that killed our top 4, or is this a game that we're going to move on and forget about?
It depends how we handle the coming 3 games, because you have 9 points up for grabs. It's pretty much Serie A falls short as a whole in terms of the competitiveness. If you could rack up 9 points, which will be difficult enough, then this is just an accident de parcours, as they say. Then it's just a mishap. If you don't, and you stand to get another draw in the next game, that'll become problematic, because we can't reach. We're always lucky in terms of when we lose points, somebody else loses points. We stay, clinging on to that top 4. But there's gonna come a time and space when we don't have that luck anymore, and we need to produce our own luck. So I think, in our own interest, we should start firing from all cylinders. And, Spalletti already announced that tomorrow is going to be a training session, which is very strange, because Spalletti normally gives out sort of, recuperation training and a rest day or a day at the gym or whatever. So I'm thinking that he's, feeling the hot breath of every other team, and he's desperate to get that 4th place. So now, the responsibility will fall on the player's shoulder, who will rise up to the occasion, who will take advantage. And I think at the end of the season, we just need to be very, very objective and say who hasn't met their individual targets and get rid of them. Because with all due respect, we can't wait forever. We can't wait on Koopmeiners to perform and be the Koopmeiners of old. We can't wait for Jonathan David to put his scoring boots on. We can't wait for Kefren Turam to start, exploding again. Time is not on our favor. We need to intervene, and we need to do that cautiously but dramatically, because I don't think we have time to waste. And I'm not looking just at this season, but at the season that lies ahead of us.
I like the fact that they're training. I mean, we got a game in 3 days. Today was underwhelming, and the team needs to get back to work. I think, though, that when I look at this game, a game that, again, we dominated, but for one moment defensively and I guess several moments offensively, I don't see anything systematically broken. I still see improvement with the performance and with the gelling of this team, such that when I look forward in the grand scheme of this season, I don't think this is going to hold us back despite the results. As much as our shooting boots missed us, this is only the third game of the last 10 where we only scored 1 goal, one of which we won 1-0 against Bologna. So I feel like we still have goals in our boots, and those types of goal we conceded today, though we do seem to kind of get scored on when it's the one opportunity we give, we haven't really been giving up those, keeping a lot of clean sheets lately as well. So I'm not overly concerned, as upsetting as this result is. Are you kind of optimistic, Damiano, as you look ahead of the season, or has this rattled your confidence?
I think we take it one game at a time. How we come out, we look at the next game, and we just start taking it one game at a time, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I don't want to get too down on myself. I think that, systematically we were looking, I agree that it didn't really break our, today didn't really break us. We've had way too many in the past of this season. We've had way too many of these games where we're dropping 2 points instead of winning these types of games. I think we come out, we just focus on the next game. We got to get 3 points next game, and that's it. We keep going and we keep going, and we just got to, every game is look for the 3 points and take it one at a time. So I think, we just take it one game at a time, and we get these points, and hopefully we can start building up and getting up closer to the top here.
Randy notes that the second goal from Atalanta was called back by VAR, so it is 1-0 Atalanta at this point. But we will not be sticking with you much longer to see how that game will shake out. Instead, we'll kind of look forward what the rest of the month looks like for Juventus and Turin Giants. First things first is we are running 4 concurrent shows this month. So Turin Giants is going to be bringing you a lot of content. We've got our regular post games. We will be providing a post game for all the games mentioned, as well as the Champions League games later this month, as well as in-stadium coverage against Napoli. We have our It's Black and White debate series. We've released 3 videos. We are recording one at the end of this next week. Frederic got called out by Jack, and so they will be debating a topic. Then we've got the Scoop. Frederic and I have already done several pre-January episodes of our Transfer Talk series, and we'll be doing Scoop episodes throughout this month to keep you up to date on all transfer rumors and information regarding Juventus. And I believe we'll be demoing a new series also this week soon. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already. Put on your alerts and all that stuff, because we'll be bringing a lot of coverage this month. And maybe, just maybe, if the swag gods look kindly upon us, we will be delivering a Scoop branded t-shirt for all of y'all fans of that program. So like I said, if you haven't, please like, subscribe, stay tuned to all the coverage that we're going to bring. A disappointing game, but I'd rather spend this post-game debrief with nobody else. Damiano, Frederic, and everybody in chat. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you so much for bonding over this team that gives us so much frustration at times, but also so much joy at others. Until we speak again, everybody, take it easy. And as always, Forza Juve.